What you listening to, son?
I don't think you like it.
Well, why not? I like this new generation of music.
Do you find yourself living in the past on the regular, wanting to hear the classic tunes from yesteryears and the golden age of music? Then look no further than Grooves on the Record every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. here on 94.7 The Pulse. Your voice for Geelong. Aimee Mann asks us, are we serious? Yes, we are. Because this is International Women's Month here on 94.7 The Pulse, broadcasting on Water and Country here on Grooves on the Record for you for a Wednesday afternoon. So, who is Aimee Mann for those who don't know? Well, as I previously stated before, she was a part of Till Tuesday, which is a new wave synth pop band of the 1980s, formed out of Massachusetts in the capital city of Boston. She also has done solo work, debuting in 1993 with her album Whatever. Her most famous songs were Voices Carry, What About Love, and Save Me from the Magnolia soundtrack in 1999. And she has a new podcast out called Straws into Gold, which is about herself and a few of her friends putting art and trauma together to make creative projects. Which I listened to a bit of the podcast. It is phenomenal. I mean, it's great to, let out these past experiences and see how, not in a creative, how they've become instant gold mines to projects, but more of the less, it's become the ways that they can use it to then create these experiences, that people can be like, oh, those lyrics relate to me, There was one guy who said that he was robbed in Liverpool around the time I Was Stupid was released, and some of the lyrics that from the tunes were like, oh yeah, I could relate to that. I could relate to that very much. So, Voices Carry, that's a pretty iconic song. And, I'm not gonna lie, I was deciding whether or not we would play it tonight, because it's like, yeah, that kind of gets overplayed, but at the same time, it is what made the band very, very famous in the first place. So here it is, Voices Carry, the iconic song, in 94.7 The Pulse, your voice for Geelong. 7 The Pulse, your voice for Geelong here on International Women's Month special, a month-long special dedicated to those working hard females in the music industry that I personally enjoy your music. There's a much needed drink of water. So why did I choose Aimee Mann today over maybe some of the more popular female names? Well, I believe she's quite underrated when it comes to standout lead singers of the 80s that fronted bands and also had solo careers. So I'm like, this is a pretty obvious choice. So so we're gonna move on now to some more. We're going to move on to the final of the Till Tuesday songs, which is called The Other End of the Telescope. From the Everything Is Different Now album, we have played a couple of those songs before, and then after that will be a classic 80s female voice that you all know and love from Geelong, Chrissy Amphlett of the Divinyls with Back to the Wall. Well, we're gonna dive into this song that was actually co-produced by Elvis Costello from Elvis Costello and the Attractions. So, and for those who are big fans of him, will certainly enjoy this song. Enjoy. 50 years after the fair, here on 94.7 The Pulse, with Aimee Mann specialties to bring in International Women's Day. Speaking of the Whatever album from 1993, that celebrates a 30th anniversary, which means it's the 30th anniversary of Aimee Mann's solo career. Happy 30th anniversary, Aimee. You deserve all the praise that you get with your solo work. I mean, it's a great stuff. It started like as an amalgamation of a continuation of this Everything Is Different Now era Till Tuesday, and then it just evolved into this influential alternative rock stuff that, even I don't know where it says it, but somewhere on the internet says Aimee Mann is pretty influential in terms of 90s alternative rock, which you'll hear in some of the songs afterwards, and may feature a certain duo from one of my favourite bands, Squeeze, If you know who I'm talking about, then you know. I will explain the story on how Squeeze and Aimee Mann got together to do a 10-date tour of America in 1994 and decided that Glenn Tilbrook and Chris Tifford would supply backing vocals to 2 songs that are on my playlist from the album I'm With Stupid from 1995. Some of you listeners might remember that album as probably one of the bigger ones from 1995 from the 90s for Aimee Mann. But for now, until we see you again on the other side of the breaks. And there you have it, Aimee Mann on her opinion on how her art has improved with time. And, she sounded like a valid point. I think some of her later works were actually probably some of her better works in terms of songwriting. I mean, sure, the Till Tuesday stuff is iconic for being what was around in the 1980s, but you gotta think, what does the artist really think when it comes to this music? And that certainly is the point for that. Now, the story you have all been waiting for. How did Chris Difford and Glenn Tilbrook get involved with Aimee Mann for the songs Frankenstein? And that's the way you are on the album I'm With Stupid. So, it was 1994. Squeeze were doing a US tour for their album Some Fantastic Place. And they wanted to do, well, Aimee Mann obviously at the time was also recording I'm Was Stupid in London. And both paths happened to cross at the right time. It was playing on the radio, and I think it was Aimee Mann showed interest first into Squeeze. Or was it the other way around? I don't remember off the top of my head. But one party contacted the other and said, hey, we'd like to do work with you. And so in 1994, Squeeze and Aimee Mann would embark on a 10-date acoustic tour, which they tour America. This was back when Paul Carrack was back in the band, by the way, FYI, for purists out there who are wondering in the Squeeze timeline where we're at. We're at that point in their career, the second phase, the second East Side Story, if you will. And they said it did well. But back onto the story at hand. Where were we? Oh yes, they would bug on an acoustic 10-date across America. They would perform a lot of the acoustic songs from Squeeze's new album, Some Fantastic Place. They do some songs from the Whatever album. And there was a lot of great moments. Thoroughly, one I can remember is them acoustically, well, even in a cappella form, trying to do the brass section of Hourglass. You know, that solo towards the end of the Hourglass song from Babylon On? That was pretty funny, but it works really well. So, hats off to them and whatever. So, then from there, I think Aimee Mann would fax the radio station to then tell Chris Difford and Glenn Tilbrook of interest. Would you like to do work on the I'm Was Stupid album and provide backing vocals for a couple of tracks? Obviously, Chris Difford and Glenn Tilbrook would say yes, and the rest is history. This is where we get into some of our material for this final bit of the night. First, we're going to do the song Frankenstein, which is, I would say it's the longest song out of the two. Actually, you know what? We'll do Just the Way You Are. I think that would be a much better song to do, given the time that we have left here on 94.7 The Pulse. Your voice for Geelong. That's just what you are. Aimee Mann, here on 94.7 The Pulse. Your voice for Geelong, here for a special International Women's Day month-long special celebrating my favourite female artists of all time, starting with Aimee Mann today, and hopefully next week going into the works of the extravagant and quite eccentric Kate Bush. So, I got the background finally up, and let's see how correct we were in the case of whose paths crossed first. So, according to Wikipedia, it was indeed Difford that heard Aimee Mann perform live acoustically on radio and said, yep, we need to hear more of you. So that's when they got her on to be able to be going on tour together. So that's really cool. So it says on here that Mann really enjoyed the whole spiel of Diffid and Tilbrook's contributions to the song in terms of vocal styling, stating that the low octave thing, which is obviously too low for her to sing, that she really appreciated that. That actually really added some nice tones and mood to that. So bravo, Chris! As always, you know that it's that signature low voice that he has for his songs. It really nails it. And of course, this was a perfect song from Tilbrook as well. I could just hear it when I was listening to it just then. It was perfect for him. So they, like I said, it was a 10-date joint acoustic tour between June and July of 1994. So that is really nice. And in terms of charting, because I know that some people are quite fussed with hearing this, there was only US chartings, but there was a really good charting for the alternative airplay Billboard. Number 24 for the Billboard Hot 100, it was 93. So, you know, unlucky. I think that should have deserved higher, to be honest. Maybe a top 30 on the Billboard Hot 100 in 1994 and 1995. So, electric guitar and backing vocals done by Glenn Tilbrook, nice, and backing vocals for Chris Diffid. So those were Squeeze's contribution to the single. And the next, and I'm going to say final song unless we get time. This is called Frankenstein. You have been listening to the first iteration of this month-long special celebrating the absolutely amazing contributions of women in music, whether it be Aimee Mann or maybe even some of your own favourite artists. Let me know on email, on Instagram, Vinyls According to Liam. Hit me up. What are some of your favourite female musicians? Maybe I'll consider them and put them into the playlist. And you can always check out my Twitter, Liam's Twitter. I'm always posting stuff quite regularly, whether it be my favourite music, I'm interacting with people, whatever. And yeah, I'm going to leave you with Frankenstein from the same album, I'm Stupid, which was the other collaboration between between Chris Diffid and Glenn Tilbrook. And up next, If I Don't See You, is the Macedonia program, and as always, you can listen back on 94.7.com.au for all of my shenanigans and previous episodes. So here it is, Frankenstein from the I'm With Stupid album, the other collaboration with Squeeze Boys, Chris Diffid and Glenn Tilbrook, here on 94.7 The Pulse, your voice for Geelong.